PEP Radio is a part of the Pennsylvania Equality Project that plays music, news, and weather, actively advocating for the LGBTQ+ and disabled since 2024.
PEP Radio, available on Live 365, Roku, Alexa, and at paquality.com.
Here at Gay SA Radio, we're very happy to welcome the Othering podcast to our airwaves. Catch the show every Thursday at noon CAT, bringing fresh voices and compelling conversations straight to you.
Head over to gsaradio.stream to find out how you can tune in and become part of our family. Don't miss it, only on Gay SA Radio, where you are family.
Gay Hive Magazine, all about the buzz of content for our community. Our content is like no other. It's all about being real, honest, and raw.
We're always looking for new reoccurring content for the magazine and regular content writers for our website. Gay Hive is currently seeking sponsors. Email hushmagazine001@gmail.com for details.
Gay Hive Magazine, all the buzz.
One man and one woman join forces to rid the world
What are you doing?
of inequality and fascism.
Seriously?
I'm trying I'm trying to do a promo here.
For whom? What are you doing?
Welcome to the Othering Podcast with Mike and Dory. She's a little sick, doesn't have much of a voice, so we're gonna get through this. She's usually the talker, so just bear with us here. All right, today we are talking to Ren. Ren is a lawyer and runs a pop culture and media analysis focused YouTube channel, Ren Rantz. They often approach media through a queer and disability justice lens and dream of one day creating and sharing their own stories. They are a COVID cautious and masking advocate and speak about it often. Welcome, Ren. It's great to have you.
Hi, great to be here.
I did get a chance to kind of review some of your Ren Rants, and it's really fun stuff, really cool stuff. Where did you get started with that? How did that come about?
So I have honestly been off and on YouTube since middle school. I used to write these really dramatic, really bad little romance stories and put them to like music with slides and like upload them. I also did like Sims music videos because I love The Sims. It's eaten probably hundreds of hours of my life at this point.
Yep.
But I had always really enjoyed media and pop culture analysis channels, and I watched a lot of them growing up. I've always been really into movies and TV and books and all of that. I grew up in a really small, really conservative town. So for me, it was kind of escapism. And I just found those stories so powerful and so interesting. And I would often talk my friends' ears off about whatever I was watching or reading.
Yep.
And so I decided to maybe start talking about it on YouTube. When I first started my channel, I would do my videos in 7 minutes or less because I was a college debater and we would have to give speeches in 7 minutes.
Okay.
So it was kind of a challenge to keep it short. I did do a little bit of like political commentary at the start, but honestly, the comments and the reactions to that made it so that it was just this added stress in my life instead of kind of a fun escape. And so my channel ended up pivoting more towards pop culture. And yeah, so I've been doing a lot of video essays. I always review any new Star Trek show that comes out episode by episode because I love Star Trek. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a nice break from my day-to-day, which is more stressful.
Yeah, you mentioned the political being a little rough. We've put political videos out on social media here and there, and there's a lot of nasty stuff that goes around that. It does ruin the fun, I agree. Pop culture, movies, TV shows, that's much more fun to talk about.
It is.
For sure.
So when did you kind of get the idea to really focus through the queer and disability lens? And was that something that you started with, or did that come a little later?
Well, the queer lens, I feel like, has been around for a lot longer because I knew I was queer a lot longer than I knew I was disabled. I kind of realized something wasn't entirely normal probably around second grade when I developed a crush on my best friend. I made the mistake of telling her. Again, conservative town, her mom was not happy. And then eventually I realized that I'm non-binary, and so that's kind of informed a lot of the way that I see and interact with the world. But I didn't realize I was disabled until I think 2020 or 2019, when I was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition. I've now collected 2 more autoimmune conditions. Very exciting stuff.
Fun.
And then I was also diagnosed with ADHD in, I think, 2022, after suspecting it for a long time, but also kind of gaslighting myself about it. Like, it's so funny because in like 2014 or 2015, I remember in college, I read an article about how ADHD presents in people who are not men. And I was reading through that and I was like, that sounds like me.
Yep.
That's interesting. And then I did nothing at all about it for another several years.
Yep, that sounds pretty common. We went through that.
Yeah, because like I read, the definition, and it's like, no, that's definitely not me. I doesn't fit me at all. And then I started seeing the different lists of people going through saying, wait a minute, this is how it is to live with these, autism and ADHD. And I started looking at the list. I'm like, oh, damn, that is me. And it was just like kind of one of those things where, and then I started thinking, well, no, it can't be me. I must be imagining it. I must be faking it. And then I finally hit this point of where it's like, no, this is definitely me. And it explains so much. And has that been kind of like what it is when you finally accepted it? You realized that explains so much of your life?
Yes. It also was one of those things where up until law school, I was fine. I was barely able to cope, but I was fine. And then suddenly my coping mechanisms just weren't enough anymore. And I realized, oh, wow, I'm struggling a lot. Like I can't actually function anymore. And then getting medication honestly saved my life. I was having a really rough time and it helped me a lot. I also suspect that I have autism, but now with the current administration, I am scared to get that formally diagnosed.
Yeah.
So that's just my little secret from the government.
And I totally hear you, because when I went for my doctorate, it was like, I was going, and I finished. And afterwards, like, I was okay for a little bit. And then I started going downhill, like, my brain was just, it had reached its limit of any type of information whatsoever. And it was just like, nope, I'm not doing it. I'm just falling over myself because I couldn't think. I couldn't react to things normal. My brain was not there. It was like it literally left my body. And so I understand that feeling of I can't function anymore, even after, years of pushing. And I think it's because we had tried to mask so much that something that high of a level of, going to law school, getting a doctorate of any sort, even a master's can do it, that we just hit our saturation point of coping, and it's just like, nope, no more. And the brain just says,
like, we're done.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is it. You have hit the limit. You need to stop.
Was law school something you were looking forward to for a long time? Something that you wanted to do when you grew up, so to speak?
It was.
Yeah.
It was. Lawyer or paleontologist were the two big ones. And then I realized how much math would be required for a paleontologist. And suddenly it was lawyer for sure.
You had high hopes, or high aspirations, I should say.
And
That's great.
I actually
love dinosaurs.
Yes.
And Star Trek made me want to be a lawyer with the courtroom episodes.
Nice.
I like Star Trek. And, my first foray into it was with The Wrath of Khan when I was little. Yeah, and I love that one. I just love the way at how evil Ricardo Montalban was, but yet you understood him. And it was the first time since Star Wars that I realized that sometimes villains are made because they have to choose, bad choices in order to survive. And that's the only way they can survive versus, we're in DC Comics or certain other comics where it's just like, obviously you're evil and you were born evil and you're just nothing but evil and there's no real rhyme or reason. And I loved Wrath of Khan for that kind of, it still felt like a comic book watching Star Trek, but at the same time it was logical. And I could understand it. I actually found myself kind of rooting for Khan in some of that part.
With Starfleet Academy, which is the show that they've got airing now, they have Paul Giamatti playing this villain, Noose Braca. And it's kind of a very similar vibe where, like, he's a bad person. He kills many people. He does not have a regard for, like, life, it seems. But also, sometimes he's kind of spitting. Like, sometimes he has a point.
Yes.
Yep.
And those are the best villains, when you can understand. You wouldn't necessarily do that, but you can understand where they're coming from. And, those are I think, the absolute bestest villains. And for me, that's what makes me like Marvel better than DC. Sorry, guys. And what I loved so much about Star Trek and Star Wars was that the villain was complex. It wasn't just straightforward bad. They had legitimate reasons. And
Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. And that's kind of like, you mentioned, loving law school type of thing, wanting to be a lawyer. And that's kind of what prompted me to want to be one myself when I was a kid. Because I I got to do this. I got to be the underdog winner type of thing. And it was Khan that kind of made me, ironically, want to be a lawyer and, fight for people. And, so people wouldn't end up like Khan, feeling there's no other choice.
Yeah. There's a lot of powerful stuff you can do in the legal field to improve people's quality of lives.
Mm-hmm.
It honestly kind of breaks my heart that so many people don't take that path to their lawyering.
Yeah.
Because a lot of us have also very much ruined everything.
It's true.
But no, there are some lawyers doing some really amazing work, and it makes me very proud to be among them. I mean, not on the level of some of the ones that are like really changing the world, but I do what I can in my practice.
It takes all of us, and even if it seems like the most inane and mundane thing, it still counts because, it touches somebody. Mm-hmm. As long as you help just one person, just even if it's for a second, just to make them smile, you've done more than plenty of people, and you've done a lot right there. And, it doesn't have to be quantity. It has to be quality.
One of the things I really love about your podcast is how you give so many different people a voice. Like,
Yeah.
That's a wonderful way to use a platform.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's what we were going for when we started. It was all her. I have to be honest, it was 100% her. But she felt alone. She needed the community for one, and then it was want to give people the platform to have a voice and to share their story and to let them, she could explain it better, but to show the human side of them and show that they are a human and show that it's not that easy just to say, oh yeah, I want to kill them because they're human, they're a person, they're beautiful.
Yes.
And that's where all this kind of started from, and we've had a great time.
Ever since I can remember, I wanted to either be a medical doctor, preferably a neurosurgeon, or a lawyer. And like for a while there, I was thinking I was going to do both. So then I could understand the law and malpractice suits so that if something happens, because shit happens. And, a lot of times we think of these doctors as gods and not as humans that can make a mistake. And so I wanted to be able to understand if I was in that situation, what my lawyer should understand as well. And then that way I'm not like blindsided with some incompetent lawyer, because I'm not stupid enough to try and be my own lawyer. But that was kind of what my thinking was. And as I aged and, got older, I started thinking, talking myself out of becoming a doctor, because I was thinking, I can't hold a scalpel steady and, trying to dissect a worm. human body's a lot bigger than a worm. But I was, talking myself out of it because I couldn't cut open a worm without mutilating it, so to speak. And then I just decided to go into education because I love education too. And that's where my doctorate's in. And it's kind of like that pull of helping people was still there no matter what. And getting the chance to do this is actually kind of better, I think, like a better
Therapy.
Yeah, therapy.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Because, nobody likes to be alone. Nobody wants to feel alone, or that they're the only one that sees certain things the way that they are. As a kid, feeling that awkwardness, just kind of makes you feel like you're the only one, even though you're not. But it's still, when you're a kid, parents don't know what they're talking about. Other kids are just kids, blah, kind of thing.
Yep. So has your disability hindered your ability to do your lawyering job? Has it been a challenge?
Yeah, I would say it has been. Because, of course, I mean, when you're chronically ill, your body just has limits that you really can't necessarily power through. I mean, once in a while, I kind of just have to. Like, if I have a migraine on the morning that I have a hearing, that's too bad. I still have to, do the hearing.
Yeah.
So it's like stuff like that can be rough. And then if I do have to do that, I'm basically out of commission for the rest of the day. But I'm pretty lucky that I happened to find a pretty flexible employer. So I don't really work full-time hours for the most part, and I can kind of work when I want. So if I'm having a rough morning and I want to get most of my casework for the day done at 5 p.m., I can do that. It's fine. Without that, I don't know how long I would have lasted in this field. My first job out of law school was awful. My boss was just a weird guy. He'd give confusing and vague instructions. He would complain that I wasn't doing enough, but also complain that I wasn't sitting around in the common area absorbing the vibes of the law firm. But his law firm was in a house, and I was in my office with my computer, my desktop computer that I could not bring upstairs was in the basement, and his little conference area was upstairs. And it was just a bunch of weird stuff like that. And then it kind of came to a head when he basically asked me to do unpaid extra after hours work.
Oh,
and I was realizing, those 11 p.m. emails I've been seeing from the paralegal are not in fact her choice. And so that relationship broke down very quickly. And he basically told me I'd never, ever be able to find a job for a new lawyer that was remotely better than what he was offering me. And then I found one immediately. So it's one of those things where this field can be really, really difficult, and it can grind you down and basically just chew you up and spit you out. But it doesn't have to. That's a lot of law firms are making. It's a choice to expect you to do an obscene amount of billables. It's a choice to expect you to work from 8 to 6 every day and maybe stay afterwards. That's all a choice. They could hire more people and have a more reasonable workload if they wanted to. But they don't want to because it's less profitable for them.
Right.
So once I kind of escaped that and am now at a small firm where I'm treated well, building the skills so that if this job ever disappears, I can just go off on my own and do what I want. I really like it. It's
great.
Kind of the perfect vibe for me. But in terms of surviving a typical law job, I could never.
So how did you survive law school then? I've heard that's pretty intense.
I barely did. It was bad. I mentally and physically, I was completely to my limit. I also tried to work law school because I was in a part-time program, so I thought surely this will be manageable. But I was working a very high-stress job. I was doing intake for our state's free legal aid line. It's just secondhand trauma all day long.
Yeah.
And then I would sign off and do my law school classes. I barely survived that. I was having meltdowns. My skin looked like I had a problem because there was just holes in my face for me, because I do skin pick a little, but usually my skin's fine. But when I'm that stressed, then you get acne and then you start picking it and it
Yep.
goes downhill quickly. It's bad. My like fingernails were so brittle they were just like breaking. I like lost a bunch of weight and then gained a bunch of weight and lost a bunch of weight. It was very, very bad. Honestly, I don't. If someone like asked me to do it again, I would just say no, thank you. I would rather work like retail for the rest of my life. I'm good. It was tough, and that's even with like some amount of accommodations. Not that the accommodations were very good, but they were kind of enough to like barely get me through. What really killed me was the bar exam, because studying for that was just hell. It was a nightmare. I wouldn't recommend that for anybody. I will not ever be leaving Washington State because I do not want to take another bar exam. No, thank you. It was bad. It's one of those things where I barely got through it. I pushed myself. I barely survived, and I would say now, almost 4 years later, I'm finally starting to feel about like the level of health I was before I started all of that. Like, it took years to recover from this kind of burnout. And it's one of those things that I wish more people were aware of, because I think people think when they're going through something like that and then they're finally out that it's going to get better immediately.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
No.
It takes a while.
Yes, it does. Like, a lot of, you should plan to take years sometimes. And it's okay, because that burnout is so real. When you get to that level, at the same time, like, you understand finally why people quit within a certain time frame. Because like, I used to think, oh, it's because they're wusses. They can't handle this. And then when I got there, and I had to write all these papers and defense and all this stuff, I'm like, oh my God, I get it. I get why people quit. This is really hard. And it takes a lot of brain power, a lot of
barely
time.
made it through my bachelor's.
And yeah, sometimes it is hard to do the bachelor's, but because it was so easy for me, I got like this big head thinking, oh, it's going to be hard, but I can do it. And it is very hard. It's you come out the other end more knowledgeable about your boundaries, I think, more than a lot of other stuff. Like, what you can do coming off of that. And I don't recommend going through that level of stress to figure that out.
Yeah, it would have been nice to know beforehand.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you say that?
I've not gotten that level of stress.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you say that you knew of your ADHD before you started law school?
I suspected it.
Okay.
It was in my first year of law school, I think, when I finally got tested and realized just how much I had been neglecting.
I'm sure that
my
helped a
mental
little
health.
bit. Yeah.
I'm also fairly confident that I have OCD, although at the time when the guy was evaluating me, he asked me about intrusive thoughts, and I didn't really know what those were, so I was no. So he was like, oh, no, you don't have that. And then now I'm like, I think I've got pretty bad contamination OCD, actually. Which is wild, because it was something that like I had problems with when I was a little kid. I still remember what triggered it was I was camping with my parents, and they thought I was asleep, so they were just talking, and they were talking about hantavirus.
Oh, yeah.
I live in the country, so there were like mice around, and so I became like very obsessive and like would be like washing my little hands until they would turn red, and it was not good. And then I kind of just got through that, and then was sort of coping until the pandemic. Like I would say I was mostly a normal person until the pandemic started. And then ever since, like now I just have like, I don't like to touch high touch surfaces in public. I do wear a mask everywhere. But the thing is, like, part of me is like, is that OCD nervousness, or am I just correct? Because I've been sick one time in 6 years, and I used to get sick multiple times a year.
Wow.
That's
But
awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
I mean, like, I'm lucky if I have 6 months without a cold.
Yeah.
Because,
Tell me about it.
shut up. Because ever since I can remember, like, even as a little thing, I was always sick. And when I got sick, it was bad. Part of it is because I have asthma, but I would have to stay home for like days, and I would miss a lot of school because I would be so sick, and it was annoying. And I kind of figured, like, once we hit college, I started, tapering off finally. And then it just went back up. And then after having kids, it's really, really hard after you have kids. So people, be prepared. If you want to have kids, and you do, they will walk up to you holding in their sneezes just so that they can sneeze in your face as you talk to them.
That's very good birth control. Thank you.
Yes.
My partner's cousin has a very cute baby, and it keeps giving me very bad baby fever. But I need constant reminders that like they're very cute, but they will sneeze right in your face.
Yep.
They're little germ bowls walking around, especially when they go to school. It's bad.
The little petri dishes.
Yes, and for us, because of all of our kids being preemies, we had to be, really diligent about not allowing them to get sick and all that stuff. But it doesn't work, not with children, and you still get sick.
Did you manage to avoid getting COVID then?
I did.
Yeah,
I
so did we.
Good.
Amazingly, we had a couple of like exposures, but no, masking. If you wear a good quality mask, it really does work.
Yeah.
I've been on a plane and didn't get sick. Very.
How did you do the plane?
Stuff.
Planes, like even before the pandemic, always kind of gave me the because
Oh, it's so gross.
yes, like
This one lady, when I was a teenager, my first time like flying alone, I was on this little plane with this lady, and she got on with her kid, and she went and like wiped down the seat with a wipe, and then she offered me one, and I was like, sure, that sounds great. So then I wiped it down. The wipe came back like black, like it was just Ever since I bring my little wipes on a plane and I wipe every surface down. I like OCD, I'm telling you. I bought like a little cover that I just put over the airplane seat because I just don't want to touch it. It's gross.
it is
Sometimes
gross.
I think not knowing is better.
That on is not for me.
Sometimes I think not knowing is better. Not wiping it down and seeing what it looks like is better.
Yeah,
Sometimes
I
ignorance can be
wish I
bliss.
could know.
And when I say ignorance is bliss, I don't mean in certain situations, but with germs and viruses, sometimes not knowing what it does to the body and such is really nice.
I tried to moderate my OCD by seeing if the 5-second rule was real. It's not. Bacterial transfer is instant, and now in my brain, anytime I touch something gross, I go, bacterial transfer is instant.
Yeah. I grew up with the 5-second rule, and my sister would always say 5-second rule, 5-second rule, hurry up and get it, and I would eat it, and hell, my sister made me eat a mud pie when I was a kid, and she told me it was chocolate, so in fairness, I thought it was eating a chocolate pie. I didn't realize it was mud, but I don't regret that, but knowing what's in mud now, I really, really am lucky that I didn't go home with some awful diseases and such, because I was studying to be a nurse for a little bit, and the pictures and the information that they tell you what happens and all that stuff, I'm just like, how does anybody honestly walk anywhere?
I made the mistake of joining this group that posts injuries and medical oddities, because they are interesting, right?
Are.
It's fascinating. But then you get a few people that are like, I just did this little scratch on my arm, and then I got this horrible bacterial infection and almost lost my whole arm. And you're just like, I would like to unknow that, actually.
Yes.
Yep.
I'm
Yes.
going to be anxious every time I get a little scratch on my arm now for eternity.
Yeah, I'm terrible with shots too. So I have not had my tetanus shot in forever, because for one thing, they can only at least when I was younger, they could only do it in your hip.
Ew.
Yep. So my butt would be really sore, and trying to sit in a car leaning real far over is not really comfortable, and it doesn't make sense. So I've tried to avoid that particular shot as well as others. But I also avoid the plague, metal, and things like that, to try not to get scratched by that, because I don't want the shots. I don't want the disease, lockjaw and all of that stuff. I mean, that's horrible.
Yeah, that sounds not fun for sure.
And I'm sure having the autoimmune condition with OCD is a little bit worse.
It's not like it's especially rough because a lot of the time I'm right. Like I am correct, but it's still not healthy.
Right.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. I'm eventually going to get around to getting therapy for it, but at the same time, a lot of the therapy is exposure therapy, and I can't do that safely. Like ever since the start of the pandemic, I've just been pretty isolated because most gatherings and events aren't safe for me. And even if I would take the risk, I would just be so anxious the whole time. So, like I basically try to adapt however I can. Like I'll have a masked movie night with my friends once in a while, or if one of I do have a few COVID cautious friends, so if they're having like a masked party, I'll go, or I'll socialize with friends outside, but if it's like a big crowd outside, I'm still going to wear a mask. And it's one of those things where like in a lot of ways it's made my world so much smaller, but at the same time, the way so many people have just allowed that to happen to me and all of the other like immune compromised people who can't really go back to normal, it kind of gives me this, well, like, fine, I didn't want to sit with you anyway vibe. And it's not fun. No. It is lonely, but I am really lucky. Like my partner masks, my roommate masks, my parents actually mask as well, because my mom's a doctor and she's also disabled and very old, so she's careful, and neither of them have gotten COVID either. My little brother does not mask, and he's gotten COVID like twice, and I really worry about him because he's also not like the healthiest person around.
Yeah, that's great. We have never gotten COVID, but 2 of our kids got it, and I thought for sure we were going to get it when our last kid got it because he wasn't secluded enough in the beginning before we knew about it. So I think we got lucky on that one, but luckily we haven't gotten it yet. So when you're in a hearing as a lawyer, are you in person or is that being done virtually?
It's actually mostly over Zoom now. Okay. I think there are only a couple counties in Washington that require you to go in person, which is very nice. I think it's more convenient for the court too, because they don't have to like facilitate all of those people physically being there. Yeah. And there's a lot of people advocating it for it as like an access to justice thing, obviously, because it makes a huge difference if, you have a hearing and you can just take off 30 minutes from work and then, go sit in your car and go on Zoom versus having to take the entire day off, drive down to the courthouse and like show up in person. Honestly, if so many of my hearings get continued, if I had to go down to the courthouse to be told that the hearing is happening in 2 weeks, I would be so angry. It's one of those things where like it would have honestly been really hard for me to practice if the transition to Zoom hadn't happened. Yeah. For sure.
And I would think being in the courtroom is just as bad as being on an airplane with as far as all the people and the nastiness. I remember when I got called for jury duty, just sitting in the waiting room, I could kind of felt the ick.
Coughing, the wet coughing of everyone.
And the seats aren't clean.
The courtroom and the airport, they're both the worst because no one is going to cancel their flight because they're sick. Right. No one's going to skip the hearing because they're sick. They're going to go anyway, and they're going to cough all over the place, and they're not going to wear a mask. That's what really gets me. Like, I understand to an extent that it's not realistic to expect healthy people to wear a mask all the time. I mean, I don't think it's that big of an inconvenience, but whatever. No, right. But, like, at least when you're sick, like, come on. Yeah. Like, either stay home or wear a mask. I understand not everyone can stay home. Like work and childcare are realities that people have to contend with whether they're sick or not. I get that. A mask is not expensive. No. There are lots of mask blocks that will give you masks for free if you cannot afford them. If you are sick and you have to go out, I get it. Just wear a mask and make sure it's over your nose.
Yeah. Yes. Like, you see that so often.
That would just drive me nuts.
And I wish we could normalize it because it would be so much safer for everybody. Like, your kids shouldn't be getting sick every other week. Yeah. Right? Like, it would be great if people could set, like, if you have to send your sick kid to school, okay, but, like, put them in a mask.
Right. Yeah. Our kids are older now and they did work at a grocery store. And it's amazing how often they would come home sick. Well, not amazing. I guess I expected it, but it was awful. Yeah. I came home sick all the time. I had to make them start washing their hands or using sanitizer every day afterwards, but it only did so much. Because you're right, no one cares. No one tries to mask. No one tries to take care of others.
It's just so strange to me, because I honestly, like, I don't know why I thought that the pandemic would be a turning point where we'd all start taking better care of each other, but I did.
Yeah.
I really did. All of this, like, your mask protects me, my mask protects you stuff. I was like, oh, this is lovely. This is nice to see. And then everyone was like, oh, Biden says it's over? Oh, never mind.
Yeah, I thought masking was the new normal for a long time. And then it went away, and that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't make sense to me a lot of times.
I thought we'd be more like Asian countries,
Yes.
where they mask when they're sick.
And the thing also that kind of plays into, making sure that you get your shots too. And it amazes me when people are like, well, I don't want my kid to be autistic, so I'm not going to give them shots. And
I'd rather they be dead.
Yes, I would rather them be dead with measles or, all of these other horrific diseases, rheumatic fever, all of those things can destroy, adult systems who even have shots. So you got to figure that with a child, it's even worse. And the fact that you just don't care about your child like that, because to me, it sounds like you don't give a shit about your child, and that you're so worried about them being quote unquote perfect that you would rather them die.
I'm still blown away by, there was like a father they interviewed after the measles outbreak in Texas, who's like, I think it was like a 9-year-old, like his 9-year-old daughter had just died of measles. And he still said he wouldn't vaccinate the rest of his children. And I just, my jaw was on the floor. And he clearly did love his children. So that it's like amazing to me that parents can be brainwashed to the extent where the death of their child won't change their minds. Like it.
And that makes you
like
question.
Cognitive dissonance I can't understand.
And that makes you question if he did truly love his children, if he was that willing to just let the children or child die, and possibly the rest of them. I mean, it's hard to believe that he truly loves them that much.
Yes, that's what I was kind of thinking too. I don't understand how you could possibly love your children, claim you love your children, and let them die of childhood diseases that have been that are preventable, that have been pretty much eradicated as of 2000. Why would you want to go back to that? Do you want to go and look at the different tombstones in all of the cemeteries? Look at all the children.
Yep.
All of them dropping dead. And it also doesn't make sense to me, because if we're supposed to be having babies left and right, but aren't you wanting them to become adults? If you're so obsessed with, the birth rate and making sure that there's enough people to work, you kind of need them to live through childhood.
Yeah, it's so strange that they're like, we don't want to take care of any disabled people or disabled children. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's terrible, but okay. We're also not going to do anything to prevent these children from becoming disabled.
Right.
And you're just like, you can't have both?
No,
Right.
and
like, this is terrible, but you do get one or the other.
exactly. And it bothers me, it shocks me, and going back to the immunocompromised people, I know quite a few that are, and the idea of them being murdered because other people just don't want their kid to have autism, which there is no fucking link, just is amazing.
Yeah, it's been quite the experience being told to my face by people that my life doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The assumptions they make too, like whenever you see stuff about like COVID deaths where someone has a pre-existing condition, it's kind of like waved away, and as if like, oh, they would have just died at some point in the near future anyway. And it's like, I have a good quality of life most of the time. Now that I have like recovered from the law school burnout, I can do most things and be okay and have a nice quality of life. But if I get COVID, I could die, or it could completely ruin my quality of life. And it's like they view disability as like it's not a spectrum for them. It's you're either healthy or you are like bedbound.
Yeah.
And there's so much in between. And even if someone is bedbound, like there's still a spectrum for the quality of life that they could have.
Mm-hmm.
And no one wants to like engage with that because it's a lot easier to just see us as useless and disposable, to pretend that we don't contribute to the community at all, that we don't make any difference in the lives of the people around us. And that always like fascinates me because like even like it's wild to have all of these views about disabled people. And I know that a lot of people somehow don't know many disabled people well, maybe because they've cowed so many of us into being afraid to talk about it. And like, even if you disregard that you're almost definitely going to become disabled yourself at some point, like you don't care about your parents, you don't care about your grandma, like
right.
It's like all of these people are disposable unless it's their parents or their grandma, and then suddenly they care. And that's just wild to me. Like I have a friend who is immune compromised and their parents don't mask. They live with their parents and their parents don't mask around them at all. And or they don't mask in public at all. Their parents just got COVID, refused to test for several days, just went about their business unmasked, went and sat their young niece and got her and her mother sick, and the mother has an autoimmune condition. They've gotten my friend sick with it too. They had avoided COVID for 6 years, and I'm just shocked by it. Like some people just the lack of like empathy and understanding and like basic goodness just floors me.
We need to bring back, teaching of the trial for Typhoid Mary.
Yeah.
Just because they get sick just because you're sick does not give you the right to endanger everyone else's life. You don't have that right to do that. If you want to die, go ahead, do it on your own. Don't bring the rest of us with you, because and the fact that they don't even care about their own children, their own parents or family. It's like, what the hell are you even doing then?
It's this like me individualist culture that's just it's always been a problem.
Yes.
But I feel like in the last like 10 years it has gotten to the point where there's like half of the country that basically is like, I'm not going to go out of my way to make anybody's life better except for mine. I'm not going to do literally anything to protect a single person from any bad outcome. I don't care what happens to anyone as long as I'm fine. And that is like, I feel like they're just having a completely different human experience than I am, because I can't understand it. Like cognitively, I don't understand how you can live life that way, like basically denying everyone else's obvious humanity. It's
I think we have one person to blame for that, but we won't go into that.
But how do you not figure out also that it takes everyone in order for a country to run correctly? If you are so worried about yourself, okay, fine, worry about yourself. But if everybody else feels the exact same way as you, then how do you get your groceries? Because they ain't going to care if you get them or if they're on the shelves. Who's going to, actually pick the farms? Because they're not going to care if you can't access your food, because you don't care either. Gas for your car. You're even, how are you going to get your car to work?
On what roads are you going to drive if no one's maintaining them? It's like they want all the benefits of society, but they don't want to live in society and accept that if you live in society, the trade-off is sometimes you have to be slightly inconvenienced for other people.
Right.
That's just how it is. And I personally like that trade-off. I would have a rough time living in a cave in the woods.
Yeah.
Like most people would. But it's like we just take for granted the running water and the drivable streets and the working telecommunications and the ability to get food from the grocery store, and completely ignore like the interconnectedness and like the vast amount of like shared collective effort that makes all of those things possible.
Right.
It's like these people want to live in a Hobbesian hellscape where it's solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. And I'm like, why is that desirable to you?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Not at all.
When I read, speaking of horrors, but when I read The Hobbit, not once did I think, you know what?
That's not a horror.
No, it's not. But what they went through is.
Oh, okay.
Got some horrors in there.
Yeah.
Smog's pretty scary.
But reading The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, not once did I say I want to live like the orcs. I want that individualism. I want to be tortured and, dragged through shit just like they were. Not once did I say that. I wanted to live like the hobbits and the civilized people, not the orcs, where everybody contributed and helped each other. That's the type of society I want. Not the, orcish ones where if you sneeze wrong, you're beaten within an inch of your life. That doesn't sound great.
Plus, if these people were the hobbits, they'd have just been like, I don't know, seems like a long walk to save a lot of other people from Sauron. I think I'm just going to go read my book, actually. And then Sauron comes and they're like, well, who could have foreseen?
Yes, that is the, oh my God,
exactly.
yes. It drives me nuts when people are like, oh, I didn't know this. Yes, you did! It's like, everybody told you. How do you not notice that Sauron was coming? When people said, hey, guess what? Sauron's going to come.
Yes, it's interesting how often we can say, hey, so if this occurs, these will be the consequences. And then people are like, no. And then thing occurs, and then the consequences occur. And then they're like, I didn't know it was going to be this bad.
Yes. Like,
what do you mean?
Exactly. For instance, last night we were kind of watching Adolescence. And the boy murders a girl. Sorry for spoilers. And
Spoiler alert.
yeah, I meant to say that. And he's all upset when he gets arrested. What the fuck did you think was going to happen? People were going to come and sing Kumbaya and then that was it? You murdered somebody. It's you have to learn there are consequences to doing stuff.
Well, 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 if it isn't the consequences of your own actions.
Exactly.
Yep.
And people get so amazed when they, wait a minute, what is this consequence? I was told that I was better. I don't have to deal with this. And it's just, I know it sounds mean, but sometimes that schadenfreude, just I love it.
It gets me by. It does. Sorry, not sorry.
Yes.
We tried to warn you that I get to revel in my I told you so. Because I'm so mad that I too have to deal with the consequences of you not listening.
Yep.
Exactly. And I will sing it from the rooftops when I have a voice. That, I told you so. Oh, wait, I told you so. Because it feels good.
So, I told you so. I told you so.
Exactly. I think that artists, Lady Gaga and all of them need to write an I told you so song.
I would play it constantly.
Yes, I would too. I would be like, what was that saying again? Oh yeah, click, play, and then you hear the song I told you so. Play it in stadiums, everywhere.
It'd be nice. I worry a lot. I worry about the fact that kids aren't learning so good these days. And that there's so little support for them. And I don't know. I'm not very excited to lie in the bed that we as a country have made.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a very uncomfy place to sleep.
So speaking of being worried and future, being queer, I'm sure that doesn't help matters. But I wanted to ask about that otherwise as well. You had mentioned that you kind of knew that at a very, very young age. Did you accept it at that age, or did you kind of hide it and deny it because society tells you to?
I was actually extremely lucky to be raised by very unconventional parents. My dad is now in his 80s. He's like a hippie farmer from Saskatchewan. And my mom is a weird, quirky, autistic German doctor. And so I don't know really how they chose to settle in this weird conservative little town that we ended up in, but they were always kind of doing their own thing. This town, the demographics were basically weird white people who think they live in Texas, Latino people, and weird hippies who live in the mountains. So my parents were mostly friends with the weird hippies who live in the mountains. And so I was always raised with my parents would regularly tell me that they didn't care who I ended up with as long as they treated me nicely and were a good person. My mom, told me about a little crush she had on a girl once when I was pretty little, when I was telling her about my girl crushes. like my parents just made me feel like I was completely normal. At the same time, I do think they almost did me just a little of a disservice by normalizing it too much, because it didn't occur to me that it was something I should have had to hide.
Right.
So I would just, if I liked a girl, I would just tell her. And that didn't go so well for me in that area. But it was something that I never really felt bad about myself for or anything. I never felt like a freak or anything, even when they tried to make me feel that way. I mostly just like would go the other way, where I'd just be like, oh, I see, so you're like pedestrian.
Right.
So
like
it
that.
kind of was mostly fine. The gender stuff was a little bit harder for me to kind of get a beat on, because I didn't have really the language for that as much when I was younger. I just assumed most little girls maybe wanted to play the husband sometime when they play house, you know, that kind of thing. The mean girls clocked me very fast, like it was nobody's business. Like they would tell me I looked like a man, and like they would make sure to comment on all of my like very manly clothes, stuff like that. But even that didn't really bother me that much, because like they thought they were cool people, but I didn't think they were cool people. They couldn't recite the intro to Star Trek from memory. What do I need from these people?
There
Nothing.
you go. Exactly.
So it was one of those things where like it was kind of rough, but not really that bad. And then once I, you know, graduated and moved to Seattle, like I'm just one in a sea of queer people here. And so that made it really easy to like feel accepted and accept myself. My favorite thing is my freshman year of college, we had a friend group of about like, you know, 4 or 5 people. At the start of college, they were all straight and they were all cisgender. And now that we are out of college, none of them are straight and several of them are not cisgender. And I just love that.
I do too. I love that. And, you know, college is kind of where you figure yourself out usually. Some of us take a little longer than others. And, you know, now they're trying to, shut up, Mike. Now they're trying to, you know, change it in red states. And I still think that no matter what they do, people will still figure it out. We'll find compassion. We'll figure out compassion. We'll figure out that, hey, you know, I'm not the typical. And that's good. You shouldn't be typical. Typical can be so boring.
Imagine living life on the default settings.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't have a lot of the art we have, or the, you know, way of looking at different things, because it is so awesome and beautiful to see different types of love. Healthy love. Because sometimes when all you see, like, you know, us growing up, is heterosexual, and it's always the man is dominant and, you know, manly man, and the girl is girly girl, and there's hardly ever in between type of stuff, especially when we were growing up.
But I'm pretty sure I was hit on by a gay kid a lot in high school.
Well, I had a gay friend that loved Mike, thought he was like gorgeous, along with the girls, and yeah, that it was, I had to like fight him off. But I think it's awesome to be hit on by girls and guys. I think it's great. It feels good.
That's a compliment. Like, honestly, straight men who react like rudely when gay men hit on them, it's like, you realize he just said you look awesome.
Right.
Yes.
Like, gay men have standards. You should be like walking around thrilled about this for a week.
Yeah.
Right.
And, you know, for me, the idea of a girl, that not just a guy, but a girl finding me attractive,
Oh my god.
I feel like, you know, I'm on cloud 9, because it's like, not only does the opposite sex, but the same sex? Oh my god, I'm like double cute kind of thing.
So I have a question for both of you. As a male growing up, and I went to an all-boys high school, unfortunately, being gay was the biggest insult, and you were called gay as an insult when you were being bullied and all that. And being gay, seeing another man naked or something, was just the worst thing in the world. Was it the same way for females growing up?
No, not
I
Really?
never thought it was
Mostly
either.
people
Okay.
would be mean about men being gay still. Like, if a girl thought I was like hitting on her and she was straight, she would often like basically act like I was a weird deviant. But other than that, like, it wasn't really like something that would come up that often. I mean, I'm sure it was like an occasional bullying thing that has happened to some people. But at least in my school, they were mostly just telling me I looked like a man.
For a lot of times, like, the girls that I was friends with, we would just walk around the halls holding hands. And, you know,
that didn't happen in my high school.
but we walked around holding hands. Sometimes we would kiss in the halls just because we could. Sorry, Mom and Dad.
I was in trouble at art camp for starting a stage kissing epidemic where we were all definitely kind of just kissing each other.
Yep. Yeah, we were told, but go do that somewhere else. Okay, fine. But I mean, it was actually, for me and a lot of the people that I was friends with, being called gay was prideful for us, because it was just like another. Yes, it was still used as supposed to be a slur, but me and my friends just saw it as, who cares? Be gay or don't be gay, whatever.
One thing that I am really proud of from that era in my life is, because I was loudly out. Once I had the language to say I was bi, I was saying it all the time. And I was probably a little bit insufferable, but, you know, years after high school, a few friends or even just acquaintances have messaged me and said, hey, I'm queer now. And I just want you to know how important seeing you be openly queer was for me when I was, you know, still figuring stuff out. And I'm like, my heart.
Yeah, that's
beautiful.
great to hear.
Yep. And that's kind of what I was trying to do. I mean, even though I didn't realize I was queer at the time, it was just like, you know, oh, well, we're a group of girls and we're supposed to do this because it's fun. And
it is fun.
It is. But you know, I'm one of those very, very, very oblivious people where you could tell me to my face, I like you, and I'll think you mean as a friend.
Oh, we're buddies.
Yes, that's exactly what my brain would say. Oh, okay, we're friends. Great. And you could try your damnedest to get me to realize it. Like, I don't know why, I just don't assume that. So when, you know, I'd kiss my girlfriends or, you know, we'd be holding hands and things like that, it never occurred to me that I was queer. Because, I mean, I enjoyed it. I thought it was awesome. But it just, like, I was thinking in terms of, oh, well, this is risque. This is, you know, fun kind of thing. And, yeah, it took me until this past year, actually, to realize it's because I do like girls. But, you know, living in the 90s, being a teenager then, it was really not talked about much.
No, it's not presented really as an option.
And it's a shame because you lose so much of yourself trying to fit into something that doesn't work. And, you know, trying to fit yourself in a circle when you're a square, it just doesn't work. And you beat yourself up for so long because you think you're supposed to be a circle, but you're not rounding off your edges. You can't. And I mean, it's a terrible analogy, but you get it.
It's accurate.
Yeah.
And it's just because a lot of the words weren't there when we were kids. A lot of the, you know, understanding wasn't there when we were kids. It's kind of hard to realize who you are in terms of anything, actually, because you're just told or taught by society that you're supposed to be skinny, you're supposed to be tall, and you're supposed to have your life completely figured out by the time you graduate college, and it's impossible.
Sure. When I remember in college when I first learned about the concept that, like, gender was a social construct, I got really upset, actually, before I felt liberated by it, because it took me a while to process it, because basically I had been trying to perform girl for so long that the idea that I actually didn't have to do that, like, made me angry.
Yeah.
It made me angry first, and I almost, like, had backlash against that idea, because if that was true, then it had meant that I had been miserable for all of that time for no reason.
Yep.
For nothing, for a made-up pretend thing instead of, like, these innate rules. And it's really weird because, like, I knew trans people existed by this time and I had no issue with them, but the idea that, like, I myself, like, didn't have to fit into this box and had just been, like, contorting myself all of this time for nothing, it really upset me. I I was very hostile. I like luckily didn't say anything to my professor, but I was like pissed off, and then I like ranted about it to some friends, and they were like, I don't know, that kind of makes a little bit of sense. And then I was like, and I sat with it for a while, and then eventually came around to actually feeling sort of liberated by the idea that these rules are all made up, so it doesn't actually matter if you break them at all. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's so easy when you don't know any better to think that you have to follow these rules and that they are innate and inescapable.
Right.
But it's so obvious that they're made up, because if gender were innate, men and women would look the same everywhere. Like, their clothes would be the same, the expectations for men and women would be the same if the rules were innate. But they're not. So you have a whole big wide world of completely different interpretations of femininity and masculinity and everything in between, where different things are recognized and appreciated. And I feel like so much of what's happening today is like an effort to keep the world small.
Yes.
For children, to keep them from finding out about the more complicated and horrifying parts of history and how that informs our lives today.
Right.
Keep them from thinking about the rules that govern our lives, because, you know, if you start questioning the rules, then you have a lot more power to do something about them.
Yep.
And it's really sad, because so many kids are going to then suffer sort of the same things we suffered, of like not understanding why we don't feel right, of not understanding why we don't quite belong, and feeling trapped by something that they don't have to feel trapped by. It's a tragedy, and I really hope that it's that it really is like a last gasp extinction event, like people keep saying. But
I do hope so too, because it does a disservice. I mean, like, you were either a tomboy or you were a girl, and you know, the tomboys were expected to become girly girls later, and some of them did. But that doesn't mean that you necessarily fit the mold either. Just because you wear dresses and do makeup doesn't mean that you're a girl suddenly. It doesn't. And that's kind of the beauty of now, understanding that there are nuances, there are differences, and that sometimes, you know, I always grew up, because I looked up on some books and looked on my parents, that being a girl wasn't a strict thing, that you had to wear dresses, you had to have your hair curled and in pigtails or things like that, and it didn't matter. You didn't have to do what mattered was just being you. And you know, so I grew up being ostracized because I didn't do my hair, because I ain't waking up at like 4 in the morning to do that shit. And I didn't wear makeup because, again, I'm not getting up at 4 in the morning to do that shit just for school. And, you know, I would wear my hair in ponytails or pigtails or just down or whatever. And I usually wore pants, because I cannot sit like they call ladies. I can't do it unless you have a strap over my thighs. I can't do it. And I always felt bad because I couldn't do those things. I couldn't, you know, cross my legs because I had thighs. And all of those things, I would think, why can't I do that? Why don't I want that? Why don't, as a teenager, want to be in dresses and skirts? And I always felt awkward in them. And, you know, I would be tugging at them and pulling on them constantly because I didn't feel right in them. And I often wondered, you know, what was wrong with me because of that. You know, you see all of these girls at least in my high school, where they always looked feminine no matter what they wore. And I looked it because I had, you know, a figure, but I didn't strive for it. It didn't fit me. And, you know, part of it is because, again, I was lazy and I'm not getting up that early to do anything. And, you know, you're lucky I was able to get up 5 minutes before the bus came for most of my life. But I liked it, and I always felt like you see what you get, and if you like what you see, fine. If you don't, I can't help you.
I love that.
And, you know, it's not to say that I wasn't insecure, I was, but I just could not get myself to want to do my hair and wear makeup. I didn't care. And, you know, I didn't know the words for it then.
I feel like that's rare to not care in the good way. Don't get me wrong, but nowadays it's so much caring about what other people think and worried about what other people think. I do it all the time, so I'm impressed.
I did worry about what other people thought, but at the same time, I just could not force myself into a mold that I could not, keep going with.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope to God that with the way that, some things are, that children will find that strength to say, I can't do it, I'm not going to do it, and, be lazy in that aspect. To be yourself.
I really hope that, like, more parents allow their kids more, like, leeway for self-expression. Because one thing I was always really grateful for, I sort of took a similar but different tact where, like, I realized I wasn't going to fit the, like, regular expected mold, especially if the place I grew up in, because, like, where I grew up, the horse girls were the popular girls. So I kind of just went really heavy into, like, the emo subculture. And so, like, my mom basically said, if it's not permanent, you can do whatever you want. So I had all kinds of, like, crazy hairstyles and, like, fun colors. And my mom would, like, go in with me to Hot Topic and let me pick out my, like, absurd little Hot Topic outfits. And so on one hand, it did take the wind out of, like, some of my teenage rebellion against her, but it still just kind of allowed me to cultivate my own vibe, outside of the expectations of the people around me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's another one of those things where, like, people did make fun of me. And I almost kind of reveled in that because that meant I was ruffling their feathers. I was like, yeah, you're bothered by my fun black hair and my fun absurd eyeliner. That's cute. But it just, I don't know. Now a lot of those same people have messaged me and were like, I really liked your style in high school. It was really cool. And I'm just like, it would have been nice for some of you guys to realize that back then, I think. But
yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I hope a lot of people get that chance. And, yay for cool moms that we had who didn't try to force us into those boxes and said, you're you. And, in allowing us to rebel in ways that were safe and fun and not, horror filled.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we need to start wrapping it up. We could probably talk for hours.
Yes, we could. And I am. You're going to have to come back because this has been awesome.
I would love to. This was so fun.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us. Do you want to let people know where to find Ren Rantz and anything else you have out there?
Sure, yeah. You can find me on YouTube at Ren Rantz. You can find my Facebook page. It's Bilo Ren right now. And on most other social media, it's Renata, Renehta.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been a pleasure.
Yes, thank you so much.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Othering Podcast by Mike and Dory. Please like and follow us on all of your favorite social media.
The Othering Podcast is produced by LoudCore Productions, graphics by Josh, and music by Jordy James.